Okay, the table shows the elevations of four mountains. Which of the mountains are taller than Snowy Mountain? So when we're looking at this, we have all these in different forms here. I tend to think that when we're comparing things, it's easiest to compare in decimal form. So what we're going to do is we're going to change all these into decimals. Now, dividing by 7 is not a nice thing, okay? So we can get an approximation here and get a close number because we're not going to get a good decimal out of it. But we can see if we do our long division, we have 9 divided by 7. It goes in one time. We end up with 7. So we end up with 2 at the decimal. Bring down the 0, we get 20. 7 goes into 20 2 times. It gives us 14. We get 6. We add the 0. We bring it down. We see 7 goes into 68 times. So that's going to be 56. So we're going to minus. We're going to end up with 4. Going to get the 0. We're going to bring it down. That's going to end up being 40. 7 goes into 45 times. We end up with 35. We minus. We end up with 5. We add the 0. We bring it down. We end up with 50. We put in a 7 and we end up with 49, and we minus and we get a 1, right? It's going to keep on going. But this is a good decimal that we can work with, especially when we're comparing these other numbers. So then we're looking at Snowy Mountain. Snowy Mountain is 1 and 1/5. If we're good with our fractions already, we should know that 1/5 is going to be 0.2. If we're not, we can do that division, but it's going to become 1.2. And then we have 9 over 8. So we can take 9 divided by 8. This is going to be a lot nicer than over 7. It goes in once. We get 8. We minus 1. Add the decimals. Bring down the 0. We get 10. So it goes again one time. So we're going to end up with 8. And we minus. We get 2. And we're going to bring down the 0 one more time. We end up with 20. It's going to give us 2, which is going to bring us 16. We minus. We get 4. Add the 0 one more time, we get 40, and we end up with 5. And this is going to end up being the end of this question here. Okay, so we know that Blue Mountain is going to be 1.2857. We know that Snowy Mountain is 1.2. We know that Cascade Mountain is 1.25. And we know that Brook Mountain is 1.35. Since we're looking for which ones are taller than Snowy, we're looking for which ones are taller than 1.2. We can see this is 1.28, 1.25, and 1.35. So all three of these other mountains are taller. So in this case, we would click on all three of these mountains. Ooh, did I do my math wrong somewhere? Cascade Mountain, 9 over 8. So, Cascade Mountain, 1.25. Ooh, I did, sorry. I didn't do my math wrong. I did copy the answer over wrong. This is 1.125. So 1.125 is smaller than 1.2. So we would not be able to do Cascade Mountain. This is why it's really important to go back and double check your work, especially if you are comparing your answers. Make sure the number you've compared is the actual number you want.